Rafiki once told Simba, yes, the past can hurt, but from the way I see it, you can either run from it or you can learn from it. And while I'm not traumatized by my father being pushed off of a cliff by my uncle, I am still learning to heal from my past mistakes and misfortunes. And although life isn't black and white enough to be dictated by only two choices, it seems that the only way to stop running from your problems is to take a step back and learn something from them, a lesson that took me years to truly comprehend. Hi, my name is Sarah Huynh, I'm 19 years old, and for the next 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I will be speaking about some experiences that have shaped me into the person I am today. We will begin with my move to Illinois in 2014, followed by my hospitalization when I was 16 years old, and ending with some fun facts about myself. Now, let's begin in 2014 when I moved from Maryland to Illinois. I grew up in a small town called Salisbury, Maryland, and it only had about 30,000 people with one mall and one movie theater, and they were connected. My mom had remarried around this time, and I went from being an only child to having 4 other siblings, with another one on its way. It was a hectic time in all of our lives, but the big change happened when our parents told us that we had to move to Illinois. Now, I was not a big fan of this news because it meant that I would have to leave everyone and everything that I had ever known. And to a 12-year-old, that's the most earth-shattering thing you could do. So in the summer of 2014, we moved to Illinois, and as time went on, it became clear that I was not adjusting well. Life began taking a toll on me, and I was diagnosed with depression at the age of 13. I began seeking professional help at this time, but I was not taking it to heart because I had subconsciously made this decision to run away from everything. There were a lot of aspects in my life that I was having trouble dealing with, and I had the tendency to keep it all inside until it came out in a really explosive manner. I became angry, irritable, and just really difficult to be around. I lost friends and created distance between myself and those around me. I began engaging in unhealthy coping mechanisms, really anything that would make me not feel so bad. I went on like this for a few years, and it felt like I was stuck in a standoff between myself and the rest of the world. But enough about the relocation, let's get into what you've all been wondering about, my hospitalization when I was 16 years old. I was debating on prefacing this speech with a heads up on the nature of this content, but life doesn't come with trigger warnings, and I expect you all to handle yourselves properly. So after a while, I couldn't handle it much longer, and my suicidal ideation manifested into an actual attempt. I won't get into the specifics of what happened because I want to focus on the aftermath. Perhaps it was the fact that I almost died, but I soon realized that I never wanted to die in the first place. I just wanted to stop feeling and thinking the way that I did. I began to take therapy seriously and actually apply what they taught me. I stopped being afraid to reach out for help and began building really solid support systems. As time went on, I noticed that my days were less gray and I began to feel more motivated again. Now, that's not to say that my mental health did a complete 180 and I'm suddenly normal again. I still have days and even weeks where I'm struggling to keep my head up. The only difference now is that I have the tools to keep myself afloat long enough for it to pass. And because of the amount of time and effort that I have put into my mental health, the study of psychology has become a passion of mine, so much so that I have decided to enter that field as a career. Now, I don't know what I want to do with my degree, but I want to help as many people as possible so that they don't feel as alone and unsupported as I once did. Finally, now that I have shared one of my darkest moments with you, allow me to lighten up the mood with some fun facts about myself. And I'll do my best to not make this sound like a Tinder dating profile, but it can get kind of tricky once you start listing things off about yourself. Anyways, I am an Aries with an ENFP personality, and I love Vietnamese cuisine, but I'm always in the mood for sushi. Regardless, I'm a huge foodie, so if any of you have recommendations, please send them my way. I'm also a server at Japaneros, which is a Japanese and South American fusion restaurant in Town Center, which we are hiring if any of you need a job. And I love to travel, especially when the views are beautiful and the activities are outdoorsy and cheap. And actually, I went on a road trip earlier this year where we went across West Texas and we went to various national parks and other tourist spots, such as the Prada store that's in the middle of nowhere. and I still dream about that trip and the way it made me feel. Anyways, I think I've covered enough in the 5 minutes that we have together. With that being said, I appreciate your undivided attention while I shared some info on major life events such as my 2014 relocation and my hospitalization a few years later, followed by some fun facts about myself. Before I go, I'm curious as to how many of you are like me, so raise your hand if you ever get the urge to just drop everything and go on a cross-country road trip for a year. Alright guys, thank you so much, and I will see you in class.